There'd be mosquitoes buzzing around you, giving you malaria at every opportunity. I've had malaria 16 times. There'd be a little smoking fire in the middle of the hut to try and keep the mosquitoes away, and the smoke would almost stifle you. I couldn't keep my head inside the hut. I'd have to put my head out and my body inside. So I practiced doing this in my sleep just to keep the mosquitoes away. You never got a good night's sleep. But I slept in those little huts. I ate their food. Some of our missionaries were so convicted about righteousness by diet. I know it gave me a lot of food for thought. Especially one missionary who happened to be the president of the whole mission. I'd go out, walk about with him for days and weeks at a time, and he would carry a backpack filled with the equivalent of Loma Linda Lynx. And he said to me, "You never eat anything coming from the natives." I said, "This is ridiculous. We're in their country and we don't eat their food. I mean, most of their food is quite edible." I tried not to eat the fried rats and the stewed bats. I mean, I tried to avoid them, but I was not the fussiest of missionaries. I was not a person who had to stir the stew pot. I just took a plateful. But this guy, he thought that I was the biggest sinner that ever walked on two legs because I actually ate the native food. And things came to a head between us, I guess you could say. We were in this village where the people had actually built a special house just for us to live in. Thatched roof, beautiful place, and you could actually stand up in it, which was really an unusual thing. You didn't have to crawl in on your hands and knees. They even had a little table and chairs for us to sit on. I thought, my goodness, this is civilization. And they had a young man from the capital city that they had paid for, a chef, to come down and cook for us for the 10 days that we were there, like a camp meeting. I'll never forget the first night. We're sitting at this little bamboo table, and the chef is trying to make an impression on us. A young man, he comes in and he's holding this steaming platter on one hand, very professional-like. I had to remind myself, this is actually the wilds of New Guinea. And he puts it with a flourish down on the table. And I'm sitting there with the president, who has already reached into his backpack and pulled out a can of, well, I had names for them. I used to call it either sawdust or rubber, you know. And he put a can in front of himself and a can in front of me. And as the chef put the platter down on the table, you've got to remember, up till this moment, I was a complete and total vegetarian. I had become one, along with my mother when she was converted. I'm a healthful living person myself, but I hate people who make it their God. It is offensive. And I usually sit in judgment on everybody else who isn't doing exactly what they're doing. So this young chef put the platter on the table. You know what was on it? This was an Adventist village. So there wouldn't be any pork there. There were 2 beautifully cooked red emperor fish, the most delicate of all Pacific Ocean fish. And I'll never forget this moment as long as I live. The president put out his hand and he pushed the tray that the guy had spent hours preparing, was all garnished and everything, pushed it across the other side of the table. It almost fell onto the floor, and took hold of his can of veggie links, whatever they were, and began to open it. And something happened inside me. I guess you'd call it rebellion. I just said to myself, this is not right. Don't people matter more than... So I said to him, you'll have to forgive me. I know that'll be hard for you to do, but I'm going to taste one of the fish because of all the trouble that he's gone to. Because I had no idea how delicious the red emperor fish is. So I pulled the platter over and I ate my whole fish. It was so good I ate his too. I don't think he's ever forgiven me for this even till today. He told me that I was an apostate. I said, well, if that's what an apostate is, then I'm one. But I believe that I should offer love to this young man who's put so much. And I don't think I've committed some big sin by doing it. God knows the habits of my life. If there's one thing that Jesus is teaching us, that people matter more than things. And it's so easy in the name of God to be offensive like that, isn't it? So easy to be offensive. Jesus is teaching us that we are to practice incarnational ministry.